Good afternoon, I'm Dusty Weiss from PodCamp Media, and we're excited to be casting today live from the floor of the Wisconsin Esports Summit. PodCamp Media is an award-winning podcast production company based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, working with clients all across North America, and we are proud to support the Wisconsin esports scene, as well as the work that the Milwaukee Esports Alliance does. Big thumbs up from Clinton Paperthin Bader there as well. This is something that he's passionate about. I'm passionate about it too. And at the end of the day, a rising tide lifts all boats. Esports, podcasting, we're kind of all in the same boat there. So accordingly, in honor of the event today, we thought it'd be a great opportunity to check in with one of Wisconsin's native sons, a man who is making his mark on the esports world internationally, Clinton Bader, better known by the handle Paperthin. Paperthin is an esports caster, a commentator, and an analyst based in Seoul, South Korea. He gives voice to games including Valorant and PUBG. You've heard his play-by-play on the Valorant Champions Tour, the Valorant Masters, VCT Pacific, and every PUBG Global Championship. Clinton Bader, Paperthin, tell me about your VCT Pacific. How you doing, man? Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, I'm really good at, making sure that every detail is covered. Yeah, for sure. No, I'm good, man. Happy to be here. Really excited to be a part of this event. Wish I could be there in person, but there's a large ocean that separates us. So,
about
it'd be
15
how it
time zones between here and there. What time is it where you are?
It is currently 2:35 a.m. here. Yeah, so we're rocking and rolling though. These are esports hours, baby.
This is regular working hours for you, which is
sometimes
sick and disgusting.
I had an event
frankly.
that finished at about this time a couple weeks ago due to some unfortunate tech delays. So it's kind of par for the course.
Yeah, you told me about that. That's one of the things that I think is really interesting about your world, and one of the things that I want to talk about today. Is sort of the behind the scenes that goes into the world of esports casting and all of that. But first, I kind of wanted to start with just the basics, because you and I, we go way back. We're getting very close to cradle to grave at this point.
Yeah.
But we came up together in a little town called Monroe. So how did you go from Monroe to doing what you're doing now, being an esports caster in some of the most exciting action that's taking place in Asia right now?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think like a lot of people in esports right now, you took kind of not traditional paths to get here, right? Like, I didn't study in like traditional casting. I didn't really have aspirations to be like a sports caster or anything like that. In fact, I majored in physics in university, so definitely not kind of normal. But I got really interested in esports probably around like 2007, 2008, where I wanted to be like a Halo pro in Halo 3. So I was competing in MLG events online and offline, trying to make that work. Didn't really happen. Turns out I wasn't good enough. That's fine. I took a break for a while, was just working IT, and then I just kind of decided I needed a change in my life, so I moved to South Korea. Initially just kind of taught English to get a visa to live here, and then I got really interested in a game called PUBG, was playing it a ton. I was doing some side work for one of the esports companies here. They knew I liked the game. They knew I was frankly obsessed with the game, and they needed a caster to cover their league. They asked me, I accepted, and I've been doing it ever since. It's just kind of crazy how things work out. I mean, I do have some background in things like, competitive public speaking and stuff like that, and music performance, so it's not like I'm unfamiliar with being in front of a stage or anything like that. I'm quite comfortable, but definitely not a traditional way to get to this stage, I suppose. But I think
it was a matter of like being in the right place, and somebody asked you, hey, do you want to be an esports caster? And you had the audacity to say yes to that, essentially. And then you became an esports caster. Yeah. No, it's wild. What formative experiences, you mentioned the public speaking. I know that you've got a background in like theater stagecraft as well. But what are some of the formative experiences that you think set you up to be an esports caster in one of the most competitive regions in the world for that?
Yeah, for sure. I think definitely some of the bigger things when I looked back on it, I didn't really think about it when I first started. It didn't really cross my mind. Definitely doing stuff like forensics in high school helped a lot because it got me comfortable in front of talking with people, doing public speaking and that kind of thing, being, a music performer, being the first chair oboist at our high school band, and then also getting a scholarship to play the oboe at my university. Things like that, I think, help because it makes you comfortable in front of people. It makes you comfortable in performing in whatever, aspect that might be, playing in a rock band with you way back in the day, things like that. It actually does help. It makes you unafraid of it. In fact, it makes you like it. You want to be in the stage. You want to be the one, performing in front of people to bring them entertainment, to bring them joy, to bring them excitement, all those things.
I'm disappointed that you left off one formative experience that I do know happened, and that was...
Kicking you out of the band?
No. If that was a formative experience for you, man, then I don't know what to tell you.
No. I was just totally kidding. No.
Improvising a post-game show for the Milwaukee Brewers at WEKZ in Monroe, Wisconsin, if you'll recall.
I'd forgotten about that. I had totally forgotten about that,
I was working an after-school job, board opping, which is essentially running a soundboard at a radio station, and they had Milwaukee Brewers games that they were carrying, and I was a high school kid, so of course we screwed around, and I would have guys like you to come out to the radio station to hang out and keep me from falling asleep while I was supposed to be running the boards. And once or twice, we would, pull down the Milwaukee Brewers feed at the end of the game and pull up the microphones and get on and just start talking about baseball, except I didn't know anything about baseball. So generally, you had to carry the conversation at that point. But
that's kind of true. I do still really love baseball, so I did at least know some things. But if I'm being honest, the conversations we had weren't...
They weren't very baseball-centric.
Yes.
No, not really. One of those remarkable experiences where I'm amazed that I didn't get fired from that opportunity.
Yeah,
but
I
it turned
can
out to
only
be a formative
imagine.
experience for me.
I can only imagine what truckers driving through Greene County, Wisconsin, were thinking tuning in to WKZ at that hour.
Well, it was after power down, so on an AM radio station like that, when the sun sets, it has to power down, in that case, from 1,000 watts to 10 watts. So nobody was really hearing us outside of dairy farmers in the valley there.
Yeah.
Who were
so
closing up
broadcasting to Italy or something?
Yeah, no. Well, you never know. You catch a bounce. It'll bounce off the ionosphere, but
absolutely.
10 watts. 10 watts doesn't really get you much further than the parking lot at that point. So take us through a day in the life of a typical. Well, no, take us through a day in the life of you, an esports caster in Seoul, South Korea. What are you doing? Where are you going? How's that work?
Yeah, so let's say it's a work day where I got to show up to the studio and cast. Generally, I'm waking up, grabbing a coffee, just kind of maybe grabbing a short snack or something, and then heading to the studio. Generally, I'm prepping the night before as well. It's not like I'm just walking into the studio willy-nilly. So prepping involves watching VODs of not only your own self-casting, but of other matches that have happened. So
wait. Hold the phone. You're telling me that esports casting isn't something where you can just step up to the microphone and do it? There's actual work involved? You actually have to prepare for these things?
Yes, absolutely you do. You have to prepare quite a bit, to the point of absurdity. I mean, you have to watch so many games, really, because, for example, with Valorant, there's leagues going on all across the world. I cover the Pacific region, which is Korea, Japan, Southeast Asia. Then there's 3 other regions. There's China, there's EMEA, which is Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And then there's Americas, which is North America and South America. So I have to be up to date on everything that's going on there because the state of the games can shift pretty quickly when somebody figures out a new idea or a new strategy or something. All of a sudden, everybody else is trying to mimic it. So you got to be prepared for that kind of stuff. I'm watching videos. I'm preparing. I'm looking up stats because we don't have statisticians or anything like that. It's just
you got to be your own statistician. You've got to keep track of that stuff. You've got to have it out. You'd use a spreadsheet. Use an old notebook. Were you keeping track of that stuff?
Notebooks. Yeah, I use notebooks. So a lot of times I can just pull it up on my phone quick too. There are websites out there that keep a lot of this data sort of on hand for you. So if you're good at using it, you can search it pretty quick. But yeah, notes is generally what I do. For the broadcast, I write down a lot of notes, usually a page or two worth, in my notebook about yay big. That is full of stats about the day that I'm going to be covering. So I have stuff in the back of my head that I'm thinking about and I can bring up in situations that it's pertinent.
Now, I just want to, because we work in sort of parallel worlds. I'm a podcaster.
We do work in
parallel
parallel words in some ways too.
We do that too. I'm having trouble with my words today because
I'm enjoying it. I'm reveling in it.
So many things I'm going to say to you after this. But do you find that people look at what you do and they're like, "Oh, I could do that. That's easy." And then they like throw themselves at it and they try it for a week and they're like, "Why haven't I succeeded as an esports caster yet? I've put zero effort into it and spent 8 hours talking into a microphone. Why am I not making money yet?"
Yeah, I mean, I think you're obviously using some hyperbole there, but I think some people get into it thinking that they can just like cast games on their own stream or whatever, and kind of get into it that way, and that occasionally does work. But the truth of it is it's a skill. It's not something you can easily get into. I mean, I think I'm kind of an aberration in that regard where I fit into it pretty quickly. I picked it up pretty quickly. I was fortunate to be in the right place at the right time, but you have to have a natural talent for it. It's like, frankly, it's like being a competitor. Like, you have to be physically skilled at what you do, and there are ways you can improve that. There are things you can do to make that better. And sure, casting on your own stream and stuff like that can help, but there's a lot that goes into it, a ton that you have to kind of think about and process and practice as well. So there's a world where you can do that, but it is very few and far between, and you basically have to be naturally gifted in the industry or in the job. So
I mean, you got to work. You got to do the work to get good at the thing. And speaking of doing the work, we're joined now by a guy who has been absolutely doing the work for the past year to get this event off the ground. Brandon Tschacher from the Milwaukee Esports Alliance. Brandon, say hey to Clinton. Clinton, say hey to Brandon.
Clinton, my man. It's good to see you again.
Long time no see. Good to see you, brother.
Yeah,
How you
we're
doing?
going to get you over here one of these days. Don't keep thinking you can stay overseas. We're going to get you here.
I want to really bad. You have no idea. I really want to get over there, for sure.
I'm just going to give him the black bag treatment. I'm going to throw a bag over his head, throw him into the back of a C-130 and fly him over here. I think that's the way to go. But Brandon, congratulations on a great event once again, a great success. I'm already seeing the show floor fill up here. A lot of people wandering around, checking out the booths and taking a look at things. But this is now the third year for the summit. Tell me, what do we have on tap for today, and what are you most excited about?
Yeah, no, thank you for having me, and thank you for being here.
Of course.
PodCamp is a sponsor of the Wisconsin Esports Summit out there, nation. So say thank you to them, because it's people like you that honestly allow for things like this to happen. But it's going to be a fun day. We are starting out right now, as you said. We just opened doors 12:30. We got a bunch of awesome vendors that people can come and learn from all different walks of gaming, business, right? And so hopefully people are enjoying that. We got a lot of gameplay. Can't have an esports event without people being able to play the games. So, we've got that going on, which is a lot of fun. And then today we've got a couple panel discussions. So we've got our sponsor panel, which will be very helpful. We're asking each of them, let us know something about your industry that we may not know, because it is the third year. So we've been really moving into education mode, where some of it's awareness, and then it moves into education. And we really tried to do that this year. And then we've got a really cool panel lined up called The Many Faces of Gaming. And we actually have a few people who have pursued this professionally, kind of like, Clinton, right? Making a career out of this. And so we want to hear from them and hear what they've got to say about their experience and their journey, and some really cool stories there. So we got that. And then, a Rocket League showcase finals.
Heck
it's
yeah.
Crazy.
That's going to be great, man. No, we'll send you some footage afterwards, Clint, because I know it's late where you are, and you're probably going to be going to bed here before too much longer. But I got to ask, while we've got Brandon here, Clint, when you look back at Wisconsin, which when you lived here, we didn't really have an esports scene back before. That's why you went to Seoul, South Korea, to become an esports caster there. So when you look at the way, I guess I'll ask both of you this question, over the last 10 years, the way that the esports scene has begun to take root and develop here in the state of Wisconsin locally, how does that make you feel? Clint, first.
No, it makes me feel great, man. I mean, I think it's a really needed thing because, I think back to, I always liken esports to, the beginning of regular sports, right? When radio came about and stuff like baseball and football and all those things started to become popular, in part because of that, that what you need to do is start things locally. It needs to build from those foundations. Just like, think about, football, the Packers and the Bears and formed those coalitions way back in the day that eventually grew into the NFL. Things like that need to start, and they happen locally, just like with what Brandon's doing.
It is exciting, and I think being at the heart of it, it's both exhilarating and it's also feels like, a heavy and good weight.
I mean, it's got to feel like pushing the boulder up the hill, right?
A little
You're just
bit.
pushing and pushing and pushing, and you never really get a chance to step back and see how far you've come until you get an event like today, right?
I think that's very well said. And yeah, there's a lot of block and tackle stuff that goes on day to day that requires it. It's like anything. It's politics. It's all the rest. It requires day-to-day effort by the unsung heroes that allow for these things to really continue to grow and get noticed. Things like this help at a macro level, but yeah, it's the day-to-day work that will keep it going and will sustain it. So that's our goal.
Another question for the both of you, starting with Brandon. If you could wave a magic wand and change one thing that would help advance esports in Wisconsin, what would you do? Tomorrow.
I would say public-private partnership is probably necessary at this point. It would be helpful to get legislation involved, and I hate saying that because I'm an entrepreneur and I believe in free market, but I think at this point to compete and scale around both the country as well as globally, and we wouldn't want to be doing it flippantly, but if we could make some really targeted investments and targeted decisions on enabling the growth, I think it would help. So that'd be my answer.
Clint?
Kind of along with what he's saying, just outreach to rural communities, to kids and stuff like that, to people who are maybe outside of the cities and that kind of thing, where a lot of esports frankly kind of started and grew and sort of popularized. Now it's time to reach out to people who are out in the rural areas that want to play video games, that are interested in it. That's what's really going to really branch this out into more of a big thing, especially in a state like Wisconsin, right?
Right. Well, and I mean, that's the best thing about esports and about the virtual world in general, is that it doesn't have to be limited to urban areas. Certainly you've got your urban hubs where you're going to have centers of tech, centers of development and all that. But we're living in a post-COVID world where things can happen virtually, and those collaborations can be built outside of urban areas as well. And so I think you're right. It really democratizes the process as well. Brandon, you've certainly had your hands full, of course, getting the event off the ground here, but I also understand that congratulations are in order, that
Thank you.
You've got another baby that has joined us as well.
Yep, 3 weeks old, little girl, truly.
Oh,
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Puts a lot of stuff into perspective.
How's your oldest like being a big brother?
He's really enjoyed it, actually. He's been a rock star so far, probably to the point of where we're like, okay, you can back off, but it's the best problem to have, So it's been great. We're so grateful and blessed, and like I said, it kind of puts everything into perspective, as we all know, those of us that are parents and that have been in that space. And it's also motivating because it's like, okay, I think it puts time into perspective. Sometimes it can feel like a long runway, and then you go, oh, this is what being young feels like, and this is what being almost 40 feels like.
Well, but also the work that you're doing
Yeah.
building infrastructure that your kids could stand to benefit from someday as well.
That's the hope. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I know you've got other stuff that you've got about 1 million responsibilities here.
We're doing some things.
Today.
It's
but
good.
Anything else that you want to add before you get back to buzzing around here?
Just again, Clinton, really good to see you, man. Always following what you do
great
for
to see you,
Royale.
brother.
You're killing it over there.
Thanks,
and
man.
I'm so
Thank
proud
you.
to have you from Wisconsin. It's really cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. And then Dusty, appreciate you, man.
Absolutely. We're delighted to support this event.
Really
Again,
meaningful.
even though it's only sort of tangential to what we do as a podcast production
This looks
company.
pretty cool to me. Clinton's
I'm-
got the PC.
We're having a good time. Look at that setup.
I know, dude.
Look at that
You
cooling
look real
system.
official. I like this.
I think later on we're going to have our neighbors here next door. We're going to have them break
nice.
down and dissect
Yeah, what's
what you've
going on.
got going on there.
I like that.
These guys build gaming PCs, and frankly, I'm excited to go over and hear what they have to say later too. Anyway, congrats on another successful event.
We'll see. It's early.
Give it time.
Take
Give
it
time.
easy, boys.
Congrats, Brandon. Take care.
Thanks for stopping in, man. Clint, getting back to your day in the life of an
Sure.
esports caster in Seoul, South Korea. As far we talked about the preparation and all of that, but talk to me a little bit more about this studio environment. I mean, this is an industry that in Seoul, South Korea has really come up and matured. We're not talking about homemade rigs anymore for a lot of the work that you're doing, but professional studios. Tell me about what it's like going to work.
Yeah, no, it's really exciting. I mean, full-blown studios, Seoul is kind of where esports really took off. A lot of people kind of refer to it colloquially as the Mecca of Esports. Back in the early 2000s, StarCraft really kind of set the stage for what esports would become. All of a sudden, it's got multiple cable TV channels that are running esports events all over the place. So the infrastructure was here before anywhere else. And so there's studios, gigantic studios, stadiums that can hold hundreds of people that were literally built for esports. So you walk in there, they kind of look like theaters a little bit sometimes. That isn't always the case. But the one, like, let's say we used last year for VCT, it looked a lot like a theater. It had seating for up to maybe like 400, 500 people. And we had like a stage like you would see, at any high school or whatever, any theater in America that is a platform and where you can build your stage, where you can set your teams, your players. So it's really cool. You walk into the back halls. Usually there's a green room for the talent where we can chill and sort of talk about the broadcast, how we want it to go, and, throw ideas back and forth, and maybe a little food, drink a little coffee. But it's awesome. I mean, you show up, you've got a desk, with your monitors and everything. You got a headset. Everything's ready to go for you, and you just got to wait for the, director to tell you to go in your ear, and you're live,
Yeah. We are talking to Clinton Paperthin Bader. He is an esports caster based out of Seoul, South Korea. And by the way, as you're wandering past here, if you have any questions for Clint, we got an extra microphone right here. And so if you've got anything that you want to ask Clint, just, get over here. Come on over.
Heck
there we go. We got somebody joining us. We got a rando.
I love it.
It's just a short question.
Yeah.
That's
What's
okay.
your name, man?
My name's Brad.
Brad, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
This is Clinton, also known as Paperthin.
Yeah, thank you, Clint. I think I've seen you before on Plat Chat.
Yeah, I've been on Plat Chat a few times. You bet. Yep.
Yeah, I watched that, and it's fun watching Plat Chat. And I think I saw you. I saw you doing analysis of the Korean teams and stuff during VCT, so I thought it was pretty good listening to you. So you're doing a good
job.
Thanks, man.
So. I appreciate you. Thanks, man.
Yeah. There we go. We got a fan.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
What do you want to know about the esports world? I mean, this guy lives it. He's in it every day. I've been over. I verified it. I've known him a long time. So when he started telling me these stories, I wasn't entirely sure that he was for real. Oh, there's headphones, by the way. If you want to hear what he's saying.
I got to hear Clint.
That might help too. But he's living in the world, man. So let me help you with that. That's a pain. There you go.
Okay.
You're on the cast now.
It's
official.
Yeah.
Welcome, Brad.
What do you want to know about the world that he lives in?
How'd you get into Valorant, I'd say?
Valorant. So originally I was doing PUBG out here. And so some of the people I knew in PUBG were sort of on the ground level of doing Valorant in Korea. And so they asked me to be a part of the Valorant the VCT Korea circuit, which was the precursor to VCT Pacific, right? They kind of merged all the regions eventually. So I started with that due to, kind of people I knew. Connections do really matter in esports. So that's how I started. I mean, I like shooters in general. I loved Counter-Strike. I played an ungodly amount of Counter-Strike when I was in college, dude. He lived with me for a while.
Yeah. No, it was Counter-Strike. It was Halo and Guitar Hero, which, by the way, Clint, I should point out, they're setting up some retro gaming directly across from us here, and I saw some Guitar Hero controllers going out. I wish you was here. I wish you were here right now so that you could get up and play YYZ and play it behind your head like you did it. This guy won a tournament at Lucky's Bar in Madison. This was a long time ago. But he was so far ahead of the competition that at the end he just started showboating. It was the most embarrassing thing for the guy he was playing you've ever seen. Because he got up, he closed his eyes and started playing it behind his head to win the tournament.
Yeah, I did.
So it's true. So I know Clint. What's your name? I forgot.
I'm Dusty. Dusty.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So you're missing out on some good Guitar Hero action here.
Yeah, that was basically my question. Just shout out and Plat Chat.
It's cool.
Yeah. Awesome.
For
Thanks
sure.
for joining us,
great
man.
guys.
Enjoy the rest of the
Thanks,
conference.
man.
Yeah. Thank you.
Take care, Brad.
If anybody else
Thank
has
you.
a question for Clinton Paperthin Bader, we got an open mic here, so feel free to jump in if you've got anything that you want to ask him. And I'm running a soundboard too.
Yes.
I wanted to get in a little bit because we started talking about Valorant, we started talking about PUBG and all of that. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the differences that you've observed because you've traveled all over the world to do esports casts. You've been in China, you've been in Russia, you've been in Germany. you've been in the US of A. What are some of the big differences that you've observed between American esports and Asian esports?
I think a lot of it is culture. Like the native cultures really do impact sort of the broadcast style, if that makes sense. Like in America, esports is a lot more like regular sports. It's bombastic, it's in arenas, it's all over the place. Whereas in Asia, it's a lot more about not only the games and the show, but sort of like, how do I put this? They're really about like the technicality. Like they want to showcase that not only is esports like incredible competition, but they'll like put on amazing like AR for the viewers at home and do all these cool like new technological things. So I think you see some of that sort of culture that, you know, I think a lot of people might know like countries like Japan and Korea for, right? We have like LG, Samsung, Sony, you know, companies out here that are high on the technology end of things. So they try to bring that into it. And Europe's sort of more low key. They're a little bit, you know, less bombastic. They kind of just want to put on a really good show, and every region has its own culture that sort of influences the production style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, certainly. You get the privilege of working with games like PUBG and Valorant and all of that. Again, those games are more popular with an Asian audience here in America. Fortnite is probably one of those. But what would you think more broadly has spurred the popularity of these Battle Royale style games over the last 10 years here?
That's a good question. I've thought about that a lot. And I think, like, to me, it was this game that I always wanted, like when PUBG came out. It was like this massive, crazy game. There's 100 people in the lobby at one time, all battling against each other to try to come out on top. That's something you just kind of dream about as a kid. So I think there's sort of that aspect of winning a game against 100 other people is so cool. And it's like so difficult, and like that reward of accomplishing that challenge is so fulfilling. Like the dopamine levels are through the roof when you win a game of PUBG. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, is it literal? I like to think we talked about having a game like this when we were kids. They didn't have the technology for it, and I feel like certainly having the technology to implement that sort of massive population of 100 different players playing against each other all at the same time, I think that was a big part of it as well. But I think you're right. I think it really is just a huge... I don't know, where do you think it's going next? Particularly the Battle Royale style games. Where do those go as they continue to evolve here?
I think right now there's a real focus on sort of making them more dynamic. And when I say that, I mean like giving players more options for how to defeat their opponents or how to accomplish their goals in the game. So like just literally today, PUBG just announced that they're going to be switching over to a new game engine, which is giving them new options in terms of being able to affect the terrain of the map. So you're going to be able to like dig into the map and create your own trenches and stuff to fight against other people, which is huge, which is a game changer in that game. But stuff like that, I think it's more about making it more dynamic. And I also think you're going to see more different types of games try to accomplish the Battle Royale format, and potentially even... not even Battle Royale as a format, just larger scale events for esports. So for like maybe, like for example, like the Battlefield games, right? They're very massive, but they're two teams. They've tried to kind of do esports stuff in the past, I think, but it really didn't work. The technology probably wasn't there. The ability to observe it properly, respectably, wasn't really there. I think in the future you might see more large-scale combat games that are just two sides, not a Battle Royale where it's a free-for-all, but where there's two sides competing, potentially.
Grays versus blues sort of stuff. I mean, is there room for those sort of massive like trench warfare style games?
Yeah, I think so. I would love to cast a game like that. Like if it was like a World War II, 32 player versus 32 player, 64 player versus 64 player, tournament. I would nerd out over that so hard.
How big is too big? Like, can we do 500 versus 500, or do you lose the ability to get granular about it when you have these massive battles taking place? Do you lose the ability for there to be stars that you watch?
Yeah, I think it could be tough. I think in that case, what you're going to rely on there is having each player have their own individual stream that they can watch, so that way there's still the ability for those players to be the star, to kind of cultivate their own audience, cultivate their own image and that kind of thing. On top of, I think there is, I don't know how popular it would be, but I think there is an aspect of the tactical side of things where it's more of a top-down view. Like regular sports, right? When you watch soccer or football or something, you're not watching one individual player. You're watching multiple. So what's the largest number I can see that working at? I don't know. I think probably 32 by 32 players is maybe the biggest you're going to really be able to get people into, but I could be very wrong. I mean, it could be hundreds. Who knows? Right.
You and I both have a soft spot for, this is completely unrelated, but we have a soft spot for an old series known as Mech Warrior. And particularly the most recent version of Mech Warrior they came out with has a co-op mode. But we've talked in-game about how great it would be if there was the ability to make that massively online, but then also incorporate elements of strategy from the top down, so that you could have players on the battlefield, but also players acting as the commander or the field commander or the artillery commander or something like that, giving support to players on the battlefield as well. And so I think that there's a lot, where it's not done evolving yet. There's going to be new cool stuff coming out soon, and frankly, I'm hungry for it. I can't wait to see what we get next. Yeah.
I wouldn't stop playing it. It would be bad.
Yeah. That's how I feel about most of this stuff. But speaking of which, if someone like me is new to PUBG or Valorant and they're tuning into one of your esports casts for the first time, Clinton Paperthin Bader, what should I be watching for? What are some of the key strategies and takeaways for me to be looking for, other than just people running around machine gunning everything?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a really good question, and it's kind of funny you mentioned that. I'm actually working on a project right now.
You are working on a project that is that, yes.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Good job. Way to lead into this. Thanks for teeing me up.
It's called the set in volleyball. Now you spike it.
Yeah, I'm going to try. I wasn't tall enough to be the spiker in volleyball, so I'll do my best. But... yeah, so I think that's a really great question, and something that esports does have a hard time with in general is trying to get people who maybe aren't, hardcore gamers interested in it. I never played a lick of football, but I love it. I love to watch it, for example. So it's getting people to the point where they can understand the basics of the game. So I could say you want to look for them flanking. You want to look at the map up in the mini map up in the top left corner of the screen for Valorant. For PUBG, bring up the map screen on another monitor. Things like that I could say, but there's not really great resources to get people involved. So I'm actually working on a project titled yet to be revealed, that's going to be introducing people to the esports titles that I work on from the ground level, literally from the very basics of this is what the game is, this is what you need to know about it to be playing it, these are the basic concepts of the game. We're going to start from the very base and work our way up to get you up to speed to not only enjoy the game, but also enjoy the esports aspect. So it's a really tough question to answer shortly, because these games are complicated, and that's why we need resources out there to get people interested, that they can just do a quick search, what is Valorant, how do I play Valorant, and stuff like what I'm working on will come up and get them up to speed.
Right, yeah, no, that's good stuff. As long as we're on the topic, where can people follow you on social if they're interested in learning more or seeing that new project that's going to be coming along?
I need a banner here. So this is a real quick segue. I know I tried to do a thing where I could put it up on here. My hard drive that has my OBS on it died, so I couldn't. Because this PC here is my gaming PC. There's actually another PC next to it that's my streaming PC, and I don't obviously use that as much, and somehow the hard drive died. So anyway, at Paperthin here, so at PAPERTHINHERE. I know it's a lot, but that's for my social media. It's all across the board.
Spelling bee champion, very nice.
Yeah, I did it. I was actually never great at spelling, but math I was pretty good at, but spelling not so much. So I'm on all
Paperthin here. Got it.
Yes, on all platforms. Yeah.
And we're coming down to the end here, but I did want to ask you
Sure.
because I got into an argument on LinkedIn the other day.
Oh, good job.
And so wanted to. I'm taking a survey, generally speaking here. What's your skincare regime? You work in front of a That look right there. That's the look that I was expecting. That is the appropriate answer. Is that look right there?
This is not what I was expecting.
You're on camera. You work on camera.
I
right?
do.
I'm a
I react to
podcaster. I don't
things.
have to have a skincare regime.
Okay.
You are a professional esports caster, Paperthin.
Yeah,
you
as you
work
can
on a
tell-
camera. What's your skincare regime? How do you keep
Makeup.
that healthy Paperthin glow?
Makeup. No, I mean, I actually do some skincare stuff. Obviously, I live in South Korea, so it's kind of more important here in a way. You gotta, scrub your face a little bit, but not too much. With whatever soap and cleanser you use, you got to make sure like you're using cleansers every day. That's actually very important. There's like little oils you can use that help. I don't know what they're called because I frankly had someone help me figure out what they were to buy them, and then I forgot the name. What else do I do? Lotion every day of different kinds.
Really? You moisturize?
Absolutely.
You
every day.
monster.
100%.
You complete and total monster.
It's just now I can't not do it. It's like I feel so dry if I don't do it. I have to every day. I have to.
That stuff. It's an addictive drug, man. It's
is.
an addictive drug, and
But
your
it
body.
works.
My skincare regime:
Yeah, let me guess.
sunscreen when I'm outside,
you
shower
use soap.
occasionally. That's it. That's all you need. That's all you need as a podcaster. But
But there's a lot you
guess-
can do. I would listen. I would listen to the Koreans. They know what they're talking about when it comes to skincare. Trust me.
I guess when you're an esports caster in Seoul, South Korea, you've got to have a skincare regime. Okay, well, point for
Yes.
the other guy on LinkedIn with whom I was arguing, but I'm standing. I'm gonna die on this.
Yeah,
hill,
you go
man.
ahead. Go nuts. Yeah.
That's fine. That's fine. Any last words before we wind it down here? The Wisconsin Esports Summit is just about to get underway here, and we're coming down to the very end. But anything that you want to add to the conversation before I let you go to sleep?
Well, okay, so what about you? What about podcasting? What role do you see that having in esports? Like, where do you see? I mean, I have a general idea because I'm sometimes on them. But what do you see for that? Since you're here as a podcaster, like, where do you see that fitting in with the esports world?
I mean, every sport needs to have its central hub of information, right? And I still think that there is room in the esports world for someone to make themselves the ESPN of esports, essentially, right? You got to get in before ESPN does. ESPN's going to move into this space before too much longer here. And so someone who is able to establish themselves as that central hub for esports information is going to be in a good spot. And frankly, I think that a podcast, a well-run podcast with a well-rounded social media presence, YouTube presence, and all of that could stand to make itself that central hub for information yet. I know that people have put the effort into it. I just I don't know if anybody's really got it nailed down yet, and I still think that that's some uncharted territory where somebody could stake out some ground, and you know what, it might not pay the bills in the first year or the second year, but down the line, once you've built up the credibility, once you have essentially built up the profile to be that, I think that's certainly a spot. But then it's great as well because, you know, not everybody wants the view from 30,000 feet about esports. Some people are only interested in PUBG. Some people are only interested in Fortnite. Podcasting offers you the opportunity to drill down and get granular on those kind of things as well. Some people are only interested in American esports. Some people are only interested in European esports. And so you can get granular in that way too. It's essentially, RSS feeds are cheap. Man, you can make as many podcasts as you're willing to put the time into populating. And so I think that there's ripe ground out there for that.
I fully agree. Fully agree. They have no idea how much I've been waiting for somebody to do that. Just sitting here, just going, when is somebody going to figure this out? Because it is a golden egg that somebody's sitting on and doesn't realize it yet.
But for the fact that your bandwidth is already almost entirely maxed out, I would say you should do it. But, you know.
For now, I like being a caster. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
That's my calling for now. We'll see. Maybe someday, but I would love to. I mean, if there was such a thing and they were like, we need anchors or hosts, I would frickin' be all over that. I would love to do something like that. I think that'd be really exciting. I mean, I'd still want to cast too, but goodness, it'd be a lot of fun to be, one of those guys who's on ESPN essentially every day, just kind of bringing the esports news to people. That'd be so exciting.
Well, and again, like everything, it comes down to the money. Who's got the pockets? Who's going to fund the thing? Who's going to take the risk? Because it's not going to pay right away. You've got to have a runway to do something like that. I don't have pockets that deep. Somebody out there has pockets that deep, and they're going to make a ton of money after they invest in this and get it off the ground. But
yes.
It's not there yet. It's not there yet.
It is coming. It is coming. I know a lot of people are talking about the esports winter, where right now a lot of investors pulled out of esports and all this other stuff, but it's only a matter of time before that changes. It is only a matter of time. Just look at what happened with regular sports. It had ups and downs in the beginning, and eventually it was a rocket ship. So, the first rocket ships never get off the launch pad. They almost always blow up before they get going. So it'll take a little time. Okay, so let me ask you another quick question if you got time. Do you got time?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right, sick. What if somebody wanted to get into podcasting? Like, we've been talking about making sort of this esportsing podcasting world or realm. How are they going to get into that? Like, how did you do it? And maybe how do you think, aspiring podcasters or broadcasters can do their thing?
Ooh, that's a long question.
Sorry,
that's a long answer, I should say. How did I do it? I worked for 22 years. How should they do it? I think they should work for as long and as hard as
Grandpa.
You gotta do the work. It's just like
true.
any other field. You want to be a podcaster, you want to be an esports caster, you got to do the work. Do your homework, learn the technology, learn the tricks, learn the industry from the inside and from people who have been working in it. Surround yourself by people who are smarter and better than you and learn from them. And eventually you'll be in a position to do it yourself. I think that's universal advice, whether you're doing podcasting, whether you're doing esports casting. But Paperthin, Clinton Bader, my old buddy from back in the day, he's an esports caster, commentator, and analyst based in Seoul, South Korea. And I am Dusty Weiss from PodCamp Media. We're an award-winning podcast production company based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, working with clients all across North America. Buddy, thank you so much for joining us live this afternoon from the floor of the Wisconsin Esports Summit.
No, it was absolutely my pleasure. Thanks to the Wisconsin Esports Summit for having me. What a cool event. Hopefully someday I can get there in person and, maybe give a presentation or something. But, just so awesome that these things are happening. It's really inspiring and really cool to see that something that I was so passionate about, many, many years ago, more than a decade ago, is starting to get to where it is now. So that's super cool.
Awesome. Let's do it again soon, man. Take care.
For sure.
We'll talk to you soon.
Take care, buddy.
Later.
I'll see ya.